Jamie here with Country Diggers. Today we're going to talk about a woman called Lavinia Fisher. She was considered America's first female serial killer. Now, is she myth or legend? We will find out. And you know I've got to sing the song. It's called Pretty Lavinia by American Murder Song. And I will be reading from murderbygaslight.com by Robert Wihelm, The Legend of Lavinia Fisher. It's going to be a good one. Stay tuned. Pretty Lavinia by American Murder Song. Pretty Lavinia of the 6 and 5 mile inns works the lost parlors in a town of missing men. Carolina swamp juice by the finger as she lingers. Pretty, pretty, pretty Lavinia. What goes in Lavinia's drum? 1 part kisses, 3 part rum. Northern girl with a southern tongue. Pretty Lavinia. Another body was combed from the Ashley bank, tied with cattails and stones until it sank. But Lavinia, breezing corners, past the mourners. Pretty, pretty, pretty Lavinia. Gossiping needles where the chapel ladies meet and pray for Lavinia, sauntering down the street. Where's Annie Coley? What's delayed her? Who can say, sir? Pretty, pretty, pretty Lavinia. What goes in Lavinia's drum? 1 part kisses, 3 part rum. Northern girl with a southern tongue. Pretty Lavinia. What goes in Lavinia's drum? 1 part kisses, 3 part rum. Northern girl with a southern tongue. Pretty Lavinia. Mr. Pearl Aiken, found in the penny fish carts, split wide open with salt upon his parts. There's his top hat. There's his waistcoat. Where's the banknote? Pretty, pretty, pretty Lavinia. Samuel McEntee entered for a roof and bed, and a shot of red whiskey was poured, a black triple instead. Stumbled room 6, there and about, never checked out. Pretty, pretty Lavinia. What goes in Lavinia's drum? 1 part kisses, 3 part rum. Northern girl with a southern tongue. Pretty Lavinia. What goes in Lavinia's drum? 1 part kisses, 3 part rum. Northern girl with a southern tongue. Pretty Lavinia. Pretty Lavinia of the 6 and 5 mile inns works the lost parlors in a town of missing men. Carolina swamp juice by the finger as she lingers. Pretty, pretty, pretty Lavinia. Pretty, pretty, pretty Lavinia. And all the rest of it's just repeating. So,
all right, this
hope
is
you
from
enjoyed that.
Murder by
I think I'm getting better and better every time I do this. And I'm not delusional,
Fisher
okay?
wrote in
I'm not
2010
I
by
know
Robert
I'm getting better.
Wihelm.
All right, now for the story. The legend of Lavinia Fisher has been told and retold since her execution in Charleston, South Carolina in 1820. And with each telling, it has grown more extravagant and further from the truth. Today, tourist pamphlets and websites will earnestly tell you that Lavinia was America's first female serial killer, when in fact there is no evidence that she ever killed anyone. We do know that she was a violent and unrepentant outlaw, but she earned her fame by being a tough woman with a bad attitude in a town known for its genteel southern belles. The date was February 1819. Location, Charleston, South Carolina. And accused, Lavinia Fisher. The legend. The legend of Lavinia Fisher will vary from teller to teller, but the gist of the story told for the last 120 years goes something like this. John and Lavinia Fisher owned an inn, the 6 Mile House on a lonely road outside of Charleston, South Carolina. The building was well maintained and was a welcome sight to weary travelers. But it was rumored sometimes guests checked in and did not check out. One night, a fur trader named John Peoples stopped at the inn and was warmly greeted by the Fishers. The beautiful Lavinia Fisher was especially friendly. Peoples thought the Fishers were being a little too friendly and suspicious of their intentions. He went to bed early. People's suspicions grew and he could not sleep. He did not lie in the bed, but he decided not to lie in bed, but to sit in the corner facing the door so he could see if anyone came in to attack him. His suspicions were confirmed when a trap door sprung, dropping the bed into the cellar where John Fisher was waiting with an axe. Peoples escaped and hurried back to Charleston to tell the authorities. John and Lavinia were arrested and their property searched. The human remains were found, including many bodies in a lime pit in the cellar under the trap door. The Fishers were convicted of murder and sentenced to hang. The unrepentant Lavinia Fisher went to the gallows in 1820, wearing her wedding dress. John Fisher pinned all the blame on his wife, but he was hanged along with her. Lavinia's ghost now haunts the old jail on Magazine Street in Charleston, as well as the Unitarian Cemetery. The truth. At Murder by Gaslight, we love a good legend, but we love the truth even more. Lavinia Fisher was hanged in 1820, but the crime was highway robbery, a capital offense at the time, not murder. She was a member of a large gang of highwaymen who operated out of two houses in the backcountry outside of Charleston. The 5 Mile House and 6 Mile House, it is not clear whether or not the 6 Mile House was a hotel, but it did serve as a hideout for a number of outlaws. Wagon trade in and out of Charleston was a profitable business and an important part of the city's economy. In 1819, trade was disputed by a gang of highwaymen stopping wagons on the road and stealing goods and money. Since the victims were unable to identify their assailants, the authorities were powerless to act. A group of Charleston citizens decided to take matters into their own hands, and if necessary, invoke lynch law, according to the Charleston News and Courier. A gang of desperados have for some time past occupied certain houses in the vicinity of Ashley Ferry, practicing every deception upon the unwary and frequently committing robberies upon defenseless travelers. As they could not be identified and thereby brought to punishment, it was determined by a number of citizens to break them up, and they accordingly proceeded in a cavalcade on Thursday afternoon to the spot. Having previously obtained permission of the owners of some small houses to which these desperados resorted, to proceed against the premises in such a manner as circumstances might require. The conclave proceeded first to the 5 Mile House, where they gave the occupants 15 minutes to vacate the premises before they burned it to the ground. At the 6 Mile House, they evicted the occupants and left a man named Dave Ross behind to guard it. Believing their work was finished, the conclave returned to Charleston. The next morning, 2 men from the outlaw gang broke into the house and assaulted Dave Ross, driving him outside where he was surrounded by a gang of 9 or 10 men and 1 woman. the beautiful Lavinia Fisher. Ross looked to Lavinia for help, but she choked him and shoved his head through a window. 2 hours later, John Peoples was headed out of Charleston in his wagon and stopped near 6 Mile House to water his horse. He was accosted by the gang, including Lavinia Fisher. They stole about $40 from him. Peoples returned to Charleston, and this time he was able to tell the authorities the identities of his attackers. He did not know all their names, but he had just cause to believe that among them was William Hayward, John Fisher, and his wife Lavinia Fisher, Joseph Roberts, and John Andrews. This, along with Dave Ross's story, forced the authorities to act. Sheriff's deputies Colonel Nathaniel Green Cleary got a bench warrant from Judge Charles Jones Colcock and set out for 6 Mile House. John and Lavinia Fisher, along with several members of the gang, gave up without a fight and were taken to jail in Charleston. Over the next several days, many other gang members were arrested. John Peoples identified them as the group who robbed him. John and Lavinia Fisher were charged with highway robbery, a hanging offense at the time. While they were awaiting trial, a grave containing the remains of 2 human bodies was found about 200 yards from 6 Mile House. They were believed to be the bodies of a white man and a black woman, dead for at least 2 years. With so many people in and out of 6 Mile House during that time, it was impossible to identify their killers, and no one was ever charged with their murder. Only 2 bodies, no more, were found at 6 Mile House. The trial, May 1819. The Fishers pleaded not guilty to the charge of highway robbery, but the jury thought otherwise. Verdict: guilty of highway robbery. Aftermath. John and Lavinia planned to appeal their conviction to the Constitutional Court, and while they awaited the hearing, they were kept in the Charleston jail. Because they were a married couple, John and Lavinia were kept in the debtors' quarters in the upper part of the jail rather than the heavily guarded lower floor. On September 13th, they attempted to escape through a hole they made under the windowsill. John went first down a rope made of blankets, but it broke before he reached the ground. He could have escaped alone, but he chose to stay behind with Lavinia. Their motion for a retrial was rejected by the Constitutional Court, and the Fishers could do nothing. They could do nothing now but wait for execution. The Reverend Richard Furman would visit them often to help them make peace with their Maker. He appeared to make some headway with John, but Lavinia was more likely to curse than pray. On February 4th, 1820, they were taken to a gallows erected on Meeting Street, just outside the city limits of Charleston. Each was wearing a loose-fitting white robe over their clothes, possibly the source of the wedding dress myth. It was a public execution, and everyone, including the fine ladies of Charleston, came out to see Lavinia Fisher hang. John mounted the gallows peacefully, but Lavinia had to be physically dragged to the platform, where she beseeched the crowd to help her. According to one historian, she stamped in rage and swore with all the venomous of her amazing vocabulary, calling down damnation on a governor who would let a woman swing. The crowd stood shocked into silence, while she cut short one curse with another and ended with a volley of shrieks. When Lavinia was quiet, Reverend Furman read a letter from John Fisher in which he thanked the Reverend for explaining the mysteries of our holy religion. John then told the crowd he was innocent and blamed Colonel Cleary for coaching the witness who accused him. The legend of Lavinia Fisher had probably already started, but her true last words to the crowd at her hanging guaranteed her immortality. If you have a message you want to send to hell, give it to me. I'll carry it. Written stories of Lavinia Fisher are usually accompanied by a painting. At the top of this post, alleged to be a portrait of Lavinia Fisher. The first picture I showed of her and the last picture I showed of her is supposed to be her. It begs the question, when did she pose for it? During her life as a highwayman, in the squalor of 6 Mile House, or in the year she spent in a Charleston jail. The Fishers were buried in a potter's field, not the utilitarian cemetery Lavinia supposedly haunts. Lavinia Fisher is included in Murder by Gaslight because of her legend as a murderess. In fact, it is unlikely that she ever murdered anyone. Postscript is, it is likely that somewhere along the line, the legend of Lavinia Fisher became confused with the true and well-documented crimes of the Bloody Bender family in Kansas in the 1870s. And we'll be going into that one too in a video. But hope you enjoy and see you back soon.